Well, welcome everyone. How's everybody doing? So I'm going to talk to you tonight about a bit of a personal story that happened to me 10 years ago, 10 and a half years ago. And it's how I got to kiss the Stanley Cup, the 3 keys to life and business success. Actually, I have 8 keys, but we have 10 minutes, right? So how did I get to kiss the Stanley Cup? I don't look like a Toronto Maple Leaf, right? And truthfully, I kissed it before they have. It's been, what, 46 years? You know what Leaf stands for, right? Losers even after 47 seasons. I'm here all week trying to deal. And you know what Montreal, the Canadiens have that the Leafs don't have? A colored picture of the last time they won the Stanley Cup. But I did get to kiss it. And how did that happen? I bet you're all wondering, right? Yeah, okay, I'll tell you. So about 10 years ago, I was working with a reputable place, believe it or not, called the Center for Entrepreneurship, run by Centennial College. And I had a boss that didn't like my style too much. And back in April of 2002, on a Monday, the 17th of April, she calls me into her office and says, you know, I'm not sure that we want to continue with you. We think we want to go in a different direction. And I was like, wow, I was really devastated, kind of heartbroken. I remember it was, you know those cloudy, cool days you get in April? And I went home on that cloudy, cool day, and I did some soul searching. And I was a little afraid and a little nervous about what was going to be. I knew I was about to lose my job. And, we get a little kind of concerned, right? When that happens, how many of you like a job loss? Nobody, right? Well, maybe sometimes. So anyway, I did what any smart guy would do when he was about to be fired the next day. I played hooky. I stayed home from work. I didn't even call in. I stayed home and I kind of licked my wounds. I did a little thinking. And then I remembered, dude, you better get some help on this. And back then, remember that TV show, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? It was really big, right, 10 years ago? So I remembered, oh yeah, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? I better call a friend. And that's exactly what I did. I called a friend for some help and some guidance. Because what you don't know was 4 years before that, I went through a wicked divorce and, all sorts of challenges that come with that. And believe me, that was a real walk in the park. And then here I am, when I finally had a job I liked, some stability, and things were starting to look up, I knew that the next day I would go into that office would be my last day. So I called a friend to get perspective. Because it's a little bit embarrassing, and how do you explain this to your family, and are they going to get it? And, is this, I knew intuitively, this is just part of life. This is just, it's time to go, time for that next step, time to take that next journey. So my friend helped me put it into perspective, but I still wasn't feeling right. So I called another friend, Sabina, and she was a coach, a job and career coach. And she said, I think you got to get in touch with your inner child. And I did, and I had a conversation that afternoon with my inner child. And I found that he was hurt. He was a little worried. He was a little, what was going to be? Who's going to take care of me? And I had to parent my inner child. If you're ever going through a hard time in your life, tap into that voice, because that voice, sometimes we ignore it, maybe all too often we ignore it, but that voice has wisdom. So I made a deal with my inner child. My inner child said, the next day when we go into work, and I knew I was going to get, the can tied to me, I made a deal with my inner child. My inner child said, if our manager is really mean, is it okay to chuck a moon at her? During the firing process. And I made a deal. I said, yep, it's okay, but let's go in together tomorrow morning and meet this head on. And so the next day happened, and it was a beautiful sunny day. It was Wednesday, April 19th. I remember it clear as a bell, and I got up, I did my morning walk, I got my best suit on, and I knew I was going to go in there and get fired, which happened. And just a side note, firing is a negotiation. And I approached that like a negotiation. I wanted to get fired. I wanted to collect unemployment insurance so that at the very least I had some money coming in and I had the opportunity to take maybe some retraining programs down the road, should I need them. So I went in and met my manager, and she said, you know, it's not working out. And I said, yeah, right? And I agree, it's not. And she said, I think we're going to have to let you go, and I just need you to sign the papers. And I said, no problem, I get it. And then she asked, so how you doing with all this? And I got in touch with my, you know, little inner child again. I said, you know, really, truthfully, not very well. It's really, you really hurt me. And I was really vulnerable and honest with her in that moment. And she said, what are you going to do moving forward? And I didn't have a plan. I didn't know what I was going to do next. I really didn't. Now I've learned, you know, always have a plan B or something else to lean on should that happen to you. But at that time, I had nothing to go to. And I told her the truth. What happened was, I not only got fired and got my EI, but she retained me part-time as a coach, business coach, with 10 clients. So that was like, whoa, perfect. And off I went. So how did I get to kiss the Stanley Cup? I bet you're still wondering. 3 weeks later, after wallowing a little bit and feeling sorry for myself, I started to dust off and get back up. And my good friend Kim Trunicki, I don't know if she's here tonight, but she had a workshop called Creating Your Vision. And I took it. It was a weekend retreat over at the hotel on Jarvis, the Grand Hotel. And I took that workshop and created my vision. And my vision was to create my own company, being a coach and facilitator. And the other really cool dream I had was I wanted to host and start my very own radio show called the Small Business Big Ideas Show. And I pitched it to Toronto stations here, and they kind of went, well, you know, you don't have any experience. I said, you're right. And then I remembered my neighbor worked in Oshawa at CKDO Radio. And I pitched it to them, and they said, you know what, we like the idea. You can have it for 13 weeks, but it's going to cost you $350 an hour. I went, I'll do it, right? And so what I did all that summer was I went to town. I started to sell. I made 125 cold calls. Who's the sales guy here in the back? He spoke a couple months ago. I made 125 cold calls to sell a concept, but I got 5 advertisers on board. 5 advertisers, enough to get that radio show going. And what happened was, one of the keys to success is you've got to have a vision. Have a vision that gets you excited, that's going to help you bust through any fears you have, because I had to bust through a ton of fears. The other key to success is I had to ask a lot of favors that summer. I live in North York, and I did the radio show in Durham region every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. I had to be to the station at 8, but I had no car. So how do you get to Durham on Saturday mornings at 8? Any ideas? Go busting away. No, hitchhike, close. Have guests with car. Every guest I had for the first 8 weeks had a car, and I said, you want to be on the show? Yeah, sure. You know, great, cool. Need a ride. That summer I had to ask for money, I had to ask for help, I had to ask for business, I had to ask. So vision and ask. Don't be afraid to ask. You are all worth it. If you have a dream and a vision, it's worth seeing. The next critical thing was, with the radio show, I had it for 7 years on air in Durham region, on CKDO. It's now online, on radiothatdoesn't.com. But because of that show, I got to interview people like Bob Proctor, Dr. Stephen Covey, Chet Holmes, Jack Canfield. I met great people. A lot of them are here tonight as a result of that show. One of the people I got to interview was one of my favorite guys. His name is Jack Mitchell. And he's the author of Hug Your Customer and Hug Your People, a great business book. And he owns 4 clothing stores, high-end top clothing stores in the States called Mitchell Richards. They're on the equivalent to Holt Renfrew meets Harry Rosen. And really famous people go there. He's been on Good Morning America. Anyway, I got to interview him. And we became buddies. He actually even wrote in my book one of those testimonials. And we became buddies. And about a year after I first interviewed him, he invited me as his guest when he was here speaking at the Hockey Hall of Fame during Canadian Men's Fashion Week with Hugo Boss. And he said, I'd love you to come and meet me and see me speak and talk about Hug Your Customer. I went, Jack, I'd love to. And I got to go to the Hockey Hall of Fame, have dinner, I sat next to Saul Corman, 5, 6 times worth that. And got to meet Jack Mitchell, and that's where I got to kiss the Stanley Cup. So in closing, have the vision, ask. The other thing you have to have is you have to have determination. You gotta want it badly. You gotta want to get up on Saturday mornings, or if they then turned into Sunday mornings at 7 and be ready to go to air, 52 weeks a year, and I was. So you gotta want it badly. You gotta be hungry for what it is you want. You gotta go where nobody else goes. I had no social life Saturday nights, really, for 7 years. But was it worth it? You bet. So as I kind of close, my gift to you is to take those 3 nuggets, those 3 stars, the number 1 star, and how you can kiss the Stanley Cup is what? Have a vision. Have a vision and have no fear around it. Just go for it. The only person stopping you is you. Number 2, what was it? Ask. Yeah, ask really good questions and ask for help and ask along the way. You'll be surprised. You deny someone from giving you their gift, and their gift is most of us like to help people, right? And by not asking, you're not allowing someone to help you. I just watched with the Grey Cup yesterday, they had the best football movies of all time, and remember the Jerry Maguire line? Let me help, or help me help you. So ask. And then the last thing is, you gotta be hungry, you gotta really want it, and you gotta really go for it. So that's my message. That's how I got to kiss the Stanley Cup. Just by being real, by taking a negative and turning it into an opportunity. One of the best things that summer 10 years ago after losing the job was it just sort of set me free to dream and to set that vision and to be who I want. So next time anything negative seemingly happens to you, a job loss, or you're kind of thinking your life, it's a total opportunity. Go be creative, ask, visualize, vision, and just be hungry, and you can then kiss the Stanley Cup. Thank you, everyone.